And welcome, welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, perhaps good evening, good morning, depends where you're calling from. I'm Hunter. I am one of the hosts and moderators here at Power to Fly, and I'm so happy that you're here. We have an awesome panel today of 3 folks, so get ready. Super, super excited. So before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping. Know that you can participate in this chat and learn, and how you can do that is turn on your cameras. It's a great way to get some FaceTime with the panel, especially if you're following up. They can put a name to a face, so keep that in mind. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. And know that this will be recorded, so if you come off camera, know that you will show up in the recording potentially, and we will send that follow-up link with the recording within a couple of days. So if you have any questions, as they're coming up, feel free to drop them in the chat, and you can do that publicly here in the chat. And please know that this is a safe space, and be mindful and respectful of everyone else in the room when you're asking your question that can be seen publicly. Also, if you'd like to ask a question anonymously, you can do so by going to the chat and write to me, Hunter Canning there. And if you select my name over in the chat box, click on me, and you can send me a question anonymously, or if you have a concern or something you'd like addressed privately, that is the way to do it, and we will take action as swiftly as we can. And know that you can follow us on social media on all the things at Power to Fly. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and that's where you can go back and watch other chat and learns, such like these, or parts of interviews and moderations from the diversity reboots. And there's so many awesome resources that you can check out there. So without further ado, we have an awesome panel from Vanguard today. And here you can see their landing page on our Power to Fly website, which I highly recommend you go and check out. So if you go over to companies, and you can type in Vanguard, and then you can search from there. So Vanguard is changing the way the world invests by living their values and working with care, clarity, and courage. Vanguard is making success accessible to everyone. Their core purpose is simple: to take a stand for all investors, to treat them fairly, and to give them the best chance for investment success. Okay, and so we have a panel of not 1, not 2, but 3 folks today. And first, we're going to kick it off with Kim Thevaos. Now, Kim is a senior talent acquisition consultant with Vanguard. She has been working the firm for 17 years, working in a variety of roles. With a love for Vanguard's mission and culture, she's become a recruiter 6 years ago. She is currently focused on connecting experienced IT professionals with opportunities. Hi, Kim. How are you today? It's so great to have you here.
Hi, Hunter. Thank you so much for having us today, and welcome to those that are attending. We look forward to an interactive session today.
Thanks, Kim. Okay, and next we have Cheena Singh. Now, Cheena is a senior talent acquisition consultant with 20 years experience delivering forward-thinking recruiting solutions. She partners with Vanguard's retail systems for delivering IT talent. Through her job at Vanguard, she is pursuing her passion for increasing workforce diversity, creating equity and opportunities, knowledge, and helping build the next generation of innovators. Hi, Cheena. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you, Hunter. And hello, everyone, and welcome. Very excited to be here and answer any questions that you may have.
Awesome. And we also have Sharon High. And Sharon is a senior talent acquisitions consultant with over 20 years experience in identifying talent for the information technology domain. She leads the leadership with a team of recruiters to manage specialized university hiring for Vanguard's IT division. In her role, Sharon is passionate about client consultation and collaboration with her business partners to promote early talent. Hi, Sharon. Hi.
Hi, Hunter. Welcome, everybody. Looking forward to chatting today.
Yeah, so looking forward to jumping in. So folks, as some of you are familiar, some of y'all, how these chat learns work, you may be familiar with, is some of y'all submitted questions in advance, and I have that list of questions, and I'm going to go down, ask those questions. And if stuff comes up for you in the moment, feel free to drop it in the chat, like we mentioned, and myself and the awesome panel here will jump into your questions live as well. So feel free to do that at any moment over the next 55 minutes and counting. So first off, we'll start with a question for Cheena, and this was pre-submitted in advance. And the question asks, which are the main indicators we should take into consideration when evaluating a job offer?
Thank you, Hunter. So there's a lot that comes in an offer. There's the monetary aspect, there's culture, benefits. What I would emphasize is the broader philosophy should be, create a list of your big rocks, small rocks, and sand or gravel. So list down your big rocks can be your non-negotiable goals, your dreams, things that are very critical to you, things that'll make you a healthier, happier being. Your small rocks can be something secondary, and then the gravel can be things like furniture and the commute to the office and other stuff. So make a list of things that are your priorities and see where the offer meets these priorities based on the big rocks, small rocks, and the gravel.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Cheena. Okay, next up, another question pre-submitted. Sharon, we're going to lob the ball over to you. Do you advise accepting the initial offer even though it's aligned with what we were hoping, or should we always counter offer? So maybe it's like, oh, this is great, but also should I ask for more because isn't it a negotiation tactic?
So first off, I would say start off by building an open and honest relationship with your recruiter, as the recruiter is your advocate. So if the offer looks good and it aligns with what you're hoping for, there's nothing wrong with moving forward with accepting the offer. But before you give your decision, ask questions to get an understanding of the base salary, the total compensation, and also ask how much time you have to give your decision. As far as the counter offer or countering the offer, don't always assume that the company is holding on to extra funding for salary. And keep in mind that some companies may not have the ability to provide a higher salary. So be sure to research the market or the industry compensation, the cost of living. Be prepared to discuss what changed between the expectations you shared with the recruiter during your initial phone screen and what changed now. So be very candid and upfront. Bring up your career accomplishments and valuable skills as it relates to the role. And it also wouldn't hurt to provide a figure that is slightly higher than what you desire. And I don't think a company is going to revoke your offer.
Great. Thank you for that, Sharon. Okay, and a question for Kim here. So this person asks, based on your experience, what should a good benefit package offer? What does the benefits listed tell us about the company, perhaps on the job description? And if the benefit information is not listed on the company website, is it appropriate to request it during the interview process?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Hunter. A bit of a loaded question, right? There's a lot of things going on in this particular scenario here, but I think in general, when you're evaluating an offer and you're thinking about like the benefits that you're going to receive from a company, you're going to have some tangible benefits and then some non-tangible benefits. Some of those non-tangible things might be, what is the work culture like? Who am I going to be working with? Am I going to be in the office? Am I going to be at home? Am I going to be able to be my authentic self at work? Or am I going to have to hide who I am to show up in this space? And as far as, you know, some of those tangible benefits, we have a really incredible package here at Vanguard. And one of the things I love about recruiting for this organization is we care about individuals as humans here. So it's not just, hey, let me give you this base pay to show up at this office, but let me treat you for who you are, for your whole self. We have, you know, when I think about a good benefit package, that would include like health, dental, visions are pretty standard there. Things like retirement contributions and setting you up for success in the long term. We have at Vanguard an automatic 10% contribution to your retirement, regardless of if you contribute there. That's on top of your base salary. And then we have a match. Dollar for dollar match on the first 4%. You have to be here for a year to start earning that. But those are some things, you know, as you're thinking about companies, you know, checking into to see if they have those to help you set you up for retirement success. Also, things like PTO, are they allowing you time out of the office? How do they treat those days? Are they bulked together, sick days out of office days? Do you have an opportunity to purchase additional PTO days if those are not offered, if you're not receiving enough days when you're coming in to the firm? We have some special benefits here, like mental health benefits that were added during COVID, access to 24/7 access to counselors in a video environment, things like concierge services to help with if we have like a complex medical situation happening with a loved one and we need help with, you know, coordinating care, we can connect with a concierge service. Also, you know, may or may not be on your radar, but if, you know, you're thinking about bringing a new child into the home, is that company going to offer you something like a parental leave? Do you have to deliver that child in order to get that leave? Or could you be the dad of that child and have an opportunity to spend 6 weeks off to bond with the child? Adoption assistance, in vitro support. So there's a lot of things to consider, and that companies have access to give individuals. You know, other things are, do they offer things like on-site amenities, like a cafeteria, or here at Vanguard, we have an on-site doctor's office. So really what that can do is save you time from having to take time out of the office to take a PTO day to spend that elsewhere. So, you know, as you're starting to compare companies and offers, those are some of the things that I think would be great to consider. Oftentimes, company will have high-level information about benefits out on the website, so you can dig around and look that way. Always something that you can ask your recruiter about. I think someone mentioned earlier, your recruiter is your partner. They're your advocate. And I don't think, I've never been turned off by someone asking me like, hey, what type of benefits do you have at Vanguard? I think it really leans and gives a little bit of a glimpse into what the culture is at an organization.
I love that. And I love an on-site doctor office. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it definitely could save some time for sure.
Wow. Yeah, especially in these days where we're all kind of pros at swabbing our nose. Now you're like, okay. Very cool.
I'll add to that. I think
please,
another huge intangible is stability. What is the frequency of turnover of the company? How stable is your job? It's impacting your life. You're coming to a new company. How are they doing financially? What happened to the person that was in the seat prior to you accepting this role? That is a huge factor for people. So definitely ask about, how stable is the company? How stable is my role? What's the turnover been? All those questions are critical.
I'll actually add, Cheena, I spoke to a candidate just this week, and we were talking about in that initial call, what is it that you're looking for in compensation? And early on in my discussion with her, I learned that one of the things that's very important to her is stability. She just she went from a stable organization to a startup. She was recently laid off. She was making incredible money, but she now doesn't have a job. So as we started talking about compensation, I brought that back up, about the stability, because we weren't able to meet on the compensation. And one of the things I shared with her is I worked at Vanguard in 2008 and 2009 during the economic downturn, and lots of individuals at financial services organizations were losing their job. And we didn't have to worry about that here. And that was one of my really first eye-opening moments, that this company cares about me as a human and as an individual, and I'm not just a number that can just be done away with. We talked about that together, and she said, even though we're not matching exactly where I want to be from a compensation standpoint, I definitely want to move forward in this process, because I can tell that this is a place where I can build a career and be long term.
Well said. I agree, Kim.
That's so great. Sharon, is there anything you'd like to add on this topic?
I don't have anything to add, but well, other than the fact that I was at a financial services company prior to coming to Vanguard, and that was one of the things, like the reputation of the company being stable. Although I did start as a contractor, but that stability, it stood out to me, as well as the culture of the company.
Great, thank you. I got a DM question follow-up for this. So I'll open this up. Any three of you can kind of jump in popcorn style. And the person asked, with some of the benefits that you were talking about earlier, Kim, I believe, would you recommend that being part of the overall negotiations, you're not just asking for for an increased salary? So does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it probably, go ahead, Cheena, if you want to go.
I was going to say, Kim, and correct me here, but the benefits package isn't customizable for most companies. It is a hard set policy for everybody in the company. There are multiple options employees can pick from, but you can negotiate things like, I want to pay a lower deductible or a lower premium for benefits.
I completely agree. I've had sometimes individuals ask if they could maybe work some more PTO into their deal. That's not something that we have the flexibility to do here. That's when I offer that, hey, just so you know, during open enrollment, you can purchase 5 additional days of PTO and give them that piece. The one other thing I will add, I didn't mention it, but we actually get here a volunteer day off to spend giving back to the community. We get to choose how we spend that particular day. But some of these benefits can also give you a little glimpse into what is the culture of the organization. So, we're very much mission driven and want to give back to the community. And that's one of the ways that we're able to do that.
Oh, I love that. That's great. So folks, feel free to keep those questions coming. There's some other ones coming in the chat right now. Feel free to drop them in. I'm actually copying and pasting these into my doc so I don't lose track of them. So I love this. So thank you for asking those questions. I also realized I kind of flew through the first two a little bit and didn't circle around to the rest of the panel. So Kim or Sharon, if you would like to, is there anything that maybe we skipped over with the main indicators when we're taking a job offer into consideration? Was there anything you'd like to add, Kim or Cheena, on that?
I think Cheena probably touched on this, but my main piece is, when you're in a job, you're going to be spending a lot of time with those individuals and supporting the mission of that organization. So just really making sure that what you're going to be doing aligns with you from a value perspective, so that when you wake up and you're going to work, you know that you're doing something that feels good for you.
I agree, Kim. So I think broadly it's culture or people of the company, the environment. There's nothing worse than going to a miserable place to work and bringing that home with you, right? Benefits, stability, I think, is one of the key factors, and compensation, of course. But again, it's very personal, because for somebody who has, let's say, a medical condition, their biggest rock could be benefits. For someone that has, a small baby at home, the biggest rock could be commute or that flexibility. So it's really about identifying what are your big ticket items, your smaller ticket items, and then things that, could like add a little cherry to the top.
I love that. And I'm going to circle back to the other question, which kind of ties in perfectly. Jessica in the chat just asked, what about asking for a signing bonus if they can't meet the salary that you're looking for? And, earlier I asked Sharon about it, a question about that initial offer and a counter. So maybe Kim or Cheena, if there's anything about, signing bonuses and maybe that initial offer that you want to touch on as well.
Sharon, you want to go?
Sure. No, so I think some companies, they have a standard signing bonus, but it all depends on, the level of the role. But nothing wrong with, countering and, negotiating around the base and the sign-on, or you could do base or sign-on. So it's just up to the individual and what they're looking for. And if the signing bonus can meet the, total compensation, or if it can, bring them to where they want to be as far as the base perspective, there's nothing wrong with doing so.
Great. Thank you.
And my advice is it never hurts to ask. I often encounter, and I know this audience, we have a lot of females in this audience. I see it so often that the males are so willing to just ask right out the gate. They want to ask for more, and oftentimes my female candidates don't. I personally have a mission to make sure that we bring this equality to this space. So I'll say, hey, when I'm delivering an offer, I really expect a counter offer back from you if I feel like, to kind of urge them to ask for more. And I think, if it is that you're asking for more for like a sign-on or something, if you're walking away from, maybe you've got a bonus coming at your organization and you would be walking away from a lump sum of money, being able to provide your recruiter with that information and backing up your ask as to what you're, the reason that you're asking for that is always helpful as we're going back to the hiring manager and often times being the advocate for the candidate, saying, hey, they're walking away from this amount of money. I think it makes sense if we can bump them here.
But Kim, you're so right about that. I think women are definitely stronger advocates for others than themselves, and we shy away from negotiating, and it's good that you encourage that.
I used to work quite a bit of freelance, and there was a certain point when I was working with one client that after a couple of years, they're like, let me know if your rate has increased. Like, they really had to be like, you should be asking for more money now. Like, please bill us higher. And I was like, oh, okay.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, he had to say it like 2 times. I was like, oh, I get it now. Okay, great. So let's see here. We're going to bounce back to a pre-submitted question. I'll circle back to some of the questions in the chat. Someone wrote in, could you share some tips on how to leverage the interview process to our advantage? Sharon, would you like to kick us off with this one?
Yes, thank you. So ask questions, and just keep in mind that the interview is a two-way street. You are interviewing the company just as much as they are interviewing you. So you have to make sure that the company and the role is a fit for you. So during the interview, as you are giving your responses and answers, end with a question and then ask for feedback. But prior to the interview, be sure to do your research on the company. Review the recruiters and or hiring manager's profile on LinkedIn ahead of time, and be prepared to ask questions about their experiences. Ask what keeps them at the company, even ask them some uncomfortable questions, such as challenges that they may encounter on the job. But I would also do some mock interviews to help prepare. So just grab a friend, a peer, and do some practice interviewing with someone. But overall, when you bring yourself or when you come to the interview, be authentic and bring your true self to the interview.
Great advice. Cheena and Kim, anything you'd like to add on this?
I think I would say definitely in your interview, sometimes the candidates wait till the last 10 minutes till the interviewer asks them, do you have any questions? Don't do that. When you're asked a question, always follow up with a question like, how would you do this? After you answer, you can ask, does this rhyme with your company's philosophy? Is this how you would do this? So constantly ask for feedback, because sometimes that also gives you clarity on, what's on their mind. Also ask questions about what are the short-term, long-term expectations for the job. You can be very blunt and be candid. How would my success be measured? What does success look like in the first month, third month, a year from now? How would you help me build my, knowledge on domain or anything technical that your company is doing? I've even had candidates ask the managers, what's your leadership style? If I'm not doing something right, are you going to throw your laptop on my face, or are you going to, help me train and build my skill set? But managers like those questions, and they appreciate these questions because it shows that you're engaged, you want to know what the expectations are for the job, and you're also sitting in the driver's seat. It's not just the interviewer.
One other thing that I'll add, and this is a pretty easy one, but it's one I see candidates often miss, is understanding your why for applying to a company or to position. Like I'll ask my candidates, like, why Vanguard? What do you know about Vanguard? What attracted you here? What is it that made you want to apply here? And there's lots of research that individuals can do to find out. Is it the mission? Is it someone that works here and you've learned about the culture? Did you see someone volunteering and that's what led you to that website to learn a little bit more about the culture? But just a really easy thing, just to have a really good solid understanding of why it would be that you would want to work for that organization, because I know that often can make or break. I know it's simple, but it can make or break a candidate's interaction with a leader. Oh, I just saw it and that's why I applied. Well, you want to be able to stand out among those other individuals that are interviewing for that same role.
Yeah, I love hearing when candidates tell us, we love Vanguard because of its mission. I've even had candidates tell me, big fan of John Bogle, have read his books. That's music to our ears. And then, of course, we have candidates who come in totally ill-prepared, not knowing anything about the company. It raises a little bit of a red flag.
Yeah, and just like Kim, like you just hit it dead on, like have your why, like why are you interested in working at this company? And I would also say just to be sure that your goals or aspirations align with that role and the company's mission.
And Sharon, you had mentioned mock interviews. Ask your recruiters if they'll do a mock interview with you. Ask your recruiters what are good questions to ask this manager. What are like any cliche questions I should stay away from? And your recruiter is definitely your advocate. They will support you and hold your hand throughout the process. So do not ask them for help.
It's really good advice. And I think it's an encouraging reminder to know that they are on your team. The recruiter.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that they're there to help, because everybody wins if you get the job. Yeah. Okay. So let's see here. So there's a question in the chat. Sonia asked, I'm about to complete a UX UI design bootcamp and transition from being a freelancer to re-entering the workforce. I'm an older worker and estimated about 10 years of work left before I retire. How do I explain my career aspirations? So if I could open this question up a little bit, there's pivoting involved in this. There is, sometimes folks have questions about career gaps. And there's also, looking at like, okay, I have a 10-year plan. So I think that's really interesting. Popcorn style. Would anyone like to jump in there?
We have a lot of boot camps that we hire from. We also have focused return to work programs for women that are re-entering workforce after maybe having delivered a child or having taken time off for COVID or something. And you will see these programs being advertised on a company's career site as either return to work or women like returning to work or something. I think the one we have is Step It Up. When there's a couple other bootcamp programs where we heavily encourage such talent. And I don't think the company is going to ask any uncomfortable questions around, oh, why are you switching your career? Or, why are you looking to come back into work? And how many years do we have before we can, get the juice out before you retire? So no, this is very heavily encouraged. So kudos to you for taking that.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Cheena. I wouldn't even come and say I'm older or I have 10 years of work left. I would just, come to your interview, speak with your recruiter, be upfront about the gap of employment, but also talk about your passion and your goals and how you desire to make contributions to the company.
Great. Thank you for that, team. Okay, so jumping back to some of the pre-submitted questions here. We had one that asked, how can we tell from the hiring process if that specific role or company will serve our professional development? Yeah, Sharon, Cheena, either of you, Kim, open this one up.
I can start off. So I would say, like in your initial conversations with the recruiters or the hiring manager, ask questions around, performance reviews. You may possibly have one-on-one meetings, and that is where you would normally have conversations about your goals and career growth as well as opportunity areas. And maybe, they will make recommendations or, give you information around our or internal resources that offers training or mentorships or some networking opportunities.
So I would like to add that sometimes, you're meeting 2 or 3 people from a company in the interview. Just know that they're not, yes, they're representing the employer, but that is not a holistic view of what the company offers. If there's concerns or questions, maybe the interviewer was having a bad day and was just not as present, have your recruiter or ask your recruiter, can I talk to other people from the team that I would be joining? Can I meet with the technical lead from the team or a senior manager from the team? Ask them more questions to learn more about the company. And then there's also online, you can get information or reviews on the company from LinkedIn, Glassdoor, other forums. So there's plenty of resources available, both by your recruiter and online, to get enough wholesome, holistic view of what the company offers.
And I'll add to, thinking about what kind of professional development will you receive at a particular role or at a particular company. I think asking questions like, is continuing learning? Is that encouraged? What type of resources do you have available? If I want to go and get an additional certification, is that going to be supported, or would I need to do that on my own? It's always good, I think, for recruiters and hiring managers when they find individuals that want to continue to grow themselves and that have that vision. You're already planting a seed that I want to continue to grow, and I enjoy learning and getting better at things. So I think, anybody that you're interacting with, if that's something that's top of mind for you, don't be afraid to ask about it. I don't think it would ever come across as negative.
All very sound advice. Yes, thank you. Okay, friends, so we're about at the little time check here. We have about 25 minutes left. So feel free to keep those questions flowing in the chat. I really appreciate it. And we had a question submitted as well that said, what questions can you ask to get a sense of an organization's culture in the interview process? And what are other ways to learn more about the company culture? And we touched on this a little bit. One of y'all, I forget which one of you, but asking those. Oh, I think it was Cheena was asking about like these follow-up questions, and which is one way to do it. Kim or Sharon, is there anything you'd like to, or Cheena, anything you'd like to add on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we've mentioned a couple of times, like, culture is just so important, right? This is where you're going to be spending your time. This is the mission of the organization. I think, some of the things that I think are good questions is, how does your organization value diversity? How are your employees encouraged to be their authentic selves? And if so, how do you encourage that? A lot of organizations will have something like an employee resource group that help to highlight particular subsets of individuals within that organization. How active are they? Does an organization, here's a good example, like everybody just went through, this COVID, 2 years of craziness of COVID. Like, how did your organization support its employees during COVID? I'll share at Vanguard. I've got a personal story here with this. So we quickly pivoted. Of course, everybody was shifted to work from home. At the time, I had a 2.5-year-old daughter. And now I'm at home and I'm on video, and she thinks if I'm on the video, it's just my friends and we're chatting, and she should be a part of all those calls. And it just got really overwhelming. I mean, yeah, I'd like for her to be able to enjoy my calls, but I also needed to get some work done. And Vanguard offered an option to take a leave where I could get a reduced amount of my paycheck, but I could step away from my job. My job was waiting for me when I came back. My work shifted to my wonderful team, and I could step away and refocus my life to spend with her and not have to juggle so many things. Is everybody able to do that? No, but it was an option that was there for me. And it just, I've had a lot of aha moments in my 17 years, but that was something that really meant so much to me, to be able to spend that time with her, and I won't get that time back. So asking about those things, that's also the time when we pulled in this additional benefit for mental health. So we would have access to the 24/7 care if we needed it. Other questions I think you can ask are, in general for the culture, like, what does a typical day look like on this team? How does your team celebrate success? Are there opportunities to interact with each other outside of the workday? Like, are people hanging out with each other outside of work, or once they leave, or they want to just get away from everybody that they're working with? I think, Cheena mentioned it, right? Like Glassdoor, LinkedIn, or other opportunities to find out information. At Vanguard, we have a hashtag, Life at Vanguard. And our employees are really encouraged to share information about things that they're doing, maybe inside and outside of work. And by searching that, I think you get a really good glimpse into the caring, collaborative culture that we have here.
Also, tenure. If you're, just searching people on LinkedIn, just see how long they've been with the company. There's a lot to say when, you've only been around for 6 months, and that's a trend you're seeing with a lot of people with a certain company. So tenure, longevity, how long people stay, what could be their reasons. Asking those questions again could give you a good insight into the culture.
Awesome. And Kim, congrats on your kid. Thank you for sharing about that. And I feel you, my sister now has a 2-year-old girl and a 1-year-old, and I do FaceTime calls because we're across the country from each other. And I love this. I love those kids so much. And we do FaceTime calls. But now her name is Skyla. She likes to end the call when she's done. She's like, okay, bye, boop. You can't exactly be doing that on your work calls.
My mom does that too, Hunter. Maybe we can send your niece and my mom for training. Okay, bye. I'm like, what? Okay, I'll talk to you. But like,
Oh, I guess the call is over. Cool.
mid sentence.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Someone just asked in the chat. I love this. Mary asked in the chat, how much leverage do I actually have if I'm trying to find that elusive first job? A great question. Popcorn style. How much leverage does someone new to the workforce have? Kim seems raring to go.
I know. I'm like trying
That's you in the back,
to
yeah,
think. Yeah, I'm just trying to think back, first of all, for your first job, don't discount your ability and what you can bring to the table, right? Like when I spent some time working with entry level individuals, like oftentimes on my calls, I'm talking about like, what did you do? Well, like, talk to me about your job experience. Oh, I was just a server. I was just this. I was just that. Like, don't discount that. You're learning you have incredible transferable skills for a role. So just understanding, what are the core competencies for the role that that you're looking at, and like, how can you translate your skills? I believe a lot of times in those entry level roles, like you might not have the ability to negotiate on pay. Like that pay might be like what that pay is. But I think just getting an understanding of like what your journey can be in that particular role is really important. What is your time that you'll be in this role, or how can I continue to grow? I don't know that I'm necessarily answering the question, but hopefully that helps a little. If Sharon or Cheena have anything to add there.
Yeah.
This actually came up at Grace Hopper last week. A lot of students looking for internships and early talent positions were asking this question. And like you said, Kim, it's not for these positions, we're not looking for you to bring a truckload of experience. The expectation is, all they're looking for is motivation. How willing, how nimble are you to absorb and learn? How excited are you to learn? How passionate are you about, let's say, technology or a role that you're applying for? And that's what they want. These leaders want to groom you, train you, build you. They're not looking to leverage, 20 years of experience that you're bringing to the table, knowing that you don't. So really focus on the value you bring in terms of your passions, your competencies, what you've accomplished, and how that would translate to a job for your employer.
Mm.
Yeah. And I'll add, just be open and willing to learn new different things. And just try not to be too picky, like when you're coming into a new job. Just be open to learning that new skill set and getting it under your belt. Also network, go on LinkedIn, look at profiles of those that maybe started in this role or currently a manager or maybe a tech lead, and connect with them and ask them some questions as well. And then as always, do things in your spare time. Like if it's a, entry-level application engineer role that you're interested in your spare time, go to Coursera or some online resources to, pick up a new language, and just keep up with what's going on in the industry as well.
Thank you all for that. I'm going to do another question from the chat here. Linda asks, what is the best way to ask how long the organization has been ensuring DE&I practices, and what is the ratio of diverse representation in senior leadership roles?
I'll start. I think, just how you're wording it here, I think that's really a really great way to ask that question. And I was trying to find a way to weave this into my discussion here. So I think I'd shared I've been here at Vanguard for 17 years. I was a finance major 17 years ago. Being a female in finance there weren't a lot of us out there. And when I came to Vanguard, what I loved about this organization is how diverse the population was. There were individuals from all different walks of, all different walks of life, individuals that were, I saw people in wheelchairs. I saw individuals that dressed differently than what I was exposed to where I grew up, and just, I was able to come in and be my authentic self. And that was so attractive to me 17 years ago. And it was like Vanguard was embracing that diversity before it was the hot topic or the buzzword. And I've seen Vanguard continue to grow in this space. And I think asking, what is diverse representation? What does the representation of your leadership look like? Sometimes you can find that information online, sometimes you can't, but I don't think that it's an unreasonable question to ask by any means. And how are individuals that might be coming from a diverse background, how are they supported? What resources and tools do you have to ensure a diverse workplace?
Great, thank you for that, Kim. Anyone else want to touch on this before I move on to the next question? Well said, Kim. Okay, so we have about 15 minutes left, a little less. So if you have any more questions, feel free to keep them coming in the chat. Another pre-submitted question we have is it a general practice for companies to provide financial support to purchase home office equipment, such as a new computer or furniture for an employee newly hired for a remote position? Cheena, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So most companies do have a policy around setting you up for your home office, or Vanguard has a flex fund that we offer to all our crew members, and there's a variety of things that you can use that flex fund for. Like my dog chewed my AirPods, so I bought 3 AirPods, and I use my flex fund for that. A lot of folks bought the Peloton. So that's a question you would ask your recruiter. Ask them, what is the company's policy for home office equipment? Can I request a Mac? Can I request an extra monitor? What's approved or not approved? So, and they should be able to give you a very black and white answer on that.
I love that. Yeah, it's really true. The little AirPod case, it sure does look like a dog toy to the dog, doesn't it?
Yep. And he's ate all of it. Not 3 of them. One was a Pro's, not that I'm counting, but.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope your dog's okay.
He's dandy. He's fine. He's great.
Great. Good for him. Good for him. Sharon, Kim, anything on flex funds, or anything that maybe you'd like to touch on for questions, or hearing about how that has helped you potentially with some things that Vanguard has provided with when you were working at home. Kim, you touched on it a little bit with leave time, and was there anything that you utilized in those working from home days?
I utilized Flex Fund to purchase a standing desk, so that when I'm at home, because I had one at work, I had the ability to stand, and I wanted that option at home. I don't use it as much as I probably should, but I have it there if I want to. And other thing I'll say is most organizations, so let's say you need an accommodation for something, like maybe you need something to help you hear better, or some type of you maybe need a standing desk because you have a bad back. Like, just know that most organizations are going to have reasonable accommodations, and be an advocate for yourself, and make sure that you're asking if there's something that you need in order to do your job better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, advocating for ourselves That is a hard one to learn. At least it has been in my book. I don't know if anyone else can identify with that, but I'll happily help everybody else up the ladder. And then I'm like, oh wait, I should have a standing desk or whatever it is. Okay, let's see. So we have about 10 minutes left, friends. Let's see. Another question we have here is, I'm waiting to hear back from a company, and I'd like to know how to negotiate a planned week of vacation during a peak season time as part of my offering negotiation. Should I ask this, or is it just better not to bring it up at all? Sharon, would you like to start us off with this one?
Sure. So it is common and it's completely acceptable. Life happens, we understand you have family, you have a life. So I recommend that you communicate it ahead of time so the recruiter can inform the hiring team. And also, if you are to receive an offer, bring that up again.
Great advice. Pro tip, direct and honest. Okay, great. I love that. Let's see. Anyone else want to, Kim, do anything you'd like to add on that?
I just agree. Just be upfront in the beginning. I had a candidate recently that was joining and had a 2-week vacation planned to Disney. It had been planned since COVID and it'd been put off a couple of times. And he was like, it's going to be in the first month that I start working. How should we handle this? And I said, well, let me just talk to the hiring manager. Let's see how they want to do it. Do they want to delay your start, or do they want to go ahead and get started and then leave? And yeah, I'm glad we had the conversation. The manager said, yeah, go ahead and get started and then take the time off. I'd rather you get in now, get your feet wet, you start earning your PTO, start that clock on a lot of the benefits and everything. And then we'll work out that the leave while you're working here. So yeah, always, I agree. Be honest and transparent on what you've got going on.
You want to go on that Star Wars ride, that new ride?
Yeah. I was like, 2 weeks. Can you take me?
I know. Wow. What a fun thing. They're going to do the whole immersive thing, I bet. Holly and James is in the chat here, shared Zoom name. Any best advice for how to recover after you've been pushed past your breaking point at work? I'm stuck in a rut and I can't seem to get out of it. So how do we make those transitions? We're like, oh, this is a comfortable job, but I want to move.
Good question. Well, I think you're in a good spot, right? Like, you've realized that you're stuck. I think sometimes people can just get in this bad place and don't realize, hey, I need to do something. When I hear my husband at home complaining, I'm like, hey, do you think it might be time to look for something new that's going to push you out of your comfort zone? I guess it kind of depends on your particular situation. I know at Vanguard, if we're in a situation like that, we have a very open policy with our leaders. That's something that you would want to be authentic and talk with your leader about. Hey, I'm needing something else to help me feel challenged. Is there any additional things that I might be able to do that can help me be my authentic self, or for me to give back in some other ways to an organization? And then I think, perhaps finding a mentor or a coach that might not even be at your organization, but someone that can see things from a different perspective and might be able to help pull you out of that rut and help you to think of things a little bit differently.
Those are great advice, tips and advice. The mentor and the coach is really important. We talk about that a lot here at Power to Fly from our different teams. And there's so many different ways of approaching that too. Someone mentioned in a chat and learn recently of checking in with, your previous bosses at other places. Those can be, advocates for you and helping, because they really know you, your work styles can help you transition into new places. That's just one way of doing it. Okay,
that's really good. Sorry, I was just.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I was just saying that's really good feedback, Hunter, and checking in with previous leaders, because sometimes they can re-spark and help you remember the things the value that you were able to bring to their team. Maybe in your role now you're not getting that, but sometimes those reminders can help re-energize.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if none of this works and you do decide to pursue options outside of your employer, how to engage a different company, my recommendation would be to spell it out. Tell them what drove you to a point of burnout. What were, factors, or what are current factors about your job that you are finding, you're not like excited about, and, losing your steam. And ask the company if there's opportunities that, or are there positions in the company that would keep those factors in mind and channel your job search accordingly. So I always ask my candidates, is there anything about your current job that you're not enjoying, you're not happy with? And that helps me find them the right team, the right manager. So we're not duplicating your current situation. So definitely talk to your recruiter, let them know, and hopefully they can help you with the search.
That's really, really good advice. So friends, we have just 5 minutes left. So we're going to do one more question, and then we'll be wrapping up shortly. Time flies when you're in a room full of pros here with great advice. So we had one question that I'd like to touch on. Someone asked, they said they started a new job recently, only 3 months ago. They realized that their counterparts have better conditions. How can they broach the topic with their manager because they don't feel like they have a lot of power to negotiate? And I'm wondering too, if just like on the topic of, to open up a little bit, tough questions with your manager, tough topics, I think is something I just to like touch on before we wrap up here. Maybe Sharon or Kim, if you'd like to jump in here.
So I recommend just addressing it with your manager. I mean, I think that's the best way if you feel that, you're, and I think the question, I'm not really sure, like, as far as like the work conditions, I don't know if I have a clear definition of what that means, but I would just say, have a conversation with your manager.
Yeah, Sharon's advice go-to is be clear and direct is what I'm getting from Sharon, which I really appreciate with your PTO, with concerns. It's a tried and true approach. So I just want to like highlight that it's clearly working. So friends, we asked, oops, that's not the screen I wanted. We asked some questions in advance here. Weird. Okay, hold on a second. I'm sorry about that. To our panel here, and we're gonna just fire these off if Google will let me, who knows. And ta-da, there we go, magic. So getting real with the team. I like to say extra real because they've been so real this whole hour. So we asked some questions in advance. How would you describe the culture in one word? Kim said collaborative. Clearly, we're seeing that today. If you haven't noticed too, they're all in the same office. They were helping, like going from desk to desk over there and helping each other out. It was really kind of a wonderful thing to witness before we all signed on. We also asked, what's your favorite part about working at Vanguard? Cheena said, we are a very mission-driven organization. Our crew cares about doing the right thing. This creates a very supportive relationship-based work environment. Absolutely. We saw that in action today. And what are your top tips for someone who is interviewing? Sharon said, be yourself, find ways to showcase your abilities and skills as they align with the role. Remember that you are interviewing the company as much as they are interviewing you. Ask great questions to get a solid understanding of the culture and work life. And I think, we heard that too from Cheena, and we heard that from Kim today as well, just like asking questions and know that at the end of the day, they want to hire you. They want to find the person that's right for the job. And you know what? That just might be you. So, please feel free to go to the Vanguard landing page at Power to Fly, where you can see, you can link up with Vanguard, you can follow, you can look at the job listings what Vanguard is hiring. And Kim and Sharon and Cheena, I would love to give you a digital round of applause for your time today. Thank you so much. And if folks would like to connect, Kim, is there a way that folks can stay connected with you?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn is the best way. My name here is how it appears on LinkedIn, and I'd love to stay connected.
Great. And Cheena?
Absolutely, would love to connect with anybody. And please, if you have any questions, you need any further information, happy to help.
Awesome. And Sharon?
Same. So LinkedIn, that's the best way. And I am always open to connecting and answering any questions that you may have.
Fantastic. Well, panel, thank you again for your time, and participants, listeners, thank you so much for showing up today, taking the time in your day, asking the questions. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you all being here. And again, check out Vanguard. They're an awesome company to work for. And feel free to follow them through our page, and also check out all the other upcoming events we have at Power to Fly. So thanks again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Be well.
Thank you all.
Thank you.